ESPN was started in September of 1979, with the international division started 10 years after that. We now operate 4 networks across the country, as well as 20 networks outside of the U.S. HBO and ESPN, along with CNN, were the 3 leading U.S.-based cable and satellite networks to try out the international market space. We said to ourselves, let's try to expand the ESPN brand name around the world. It wasn't that we had done a great deal of research that said there's an urgent need for ESPN sports around the world. It was more a gut feeling that sport was something that was global, much the way movies and news seemingly were also global. Frankly, the research that was done early on was minimal. It was more just in terms of basic demographic information, what kind of cable and satellite household penetration the various platforms around the world had, what some of the channels that had already been launched were receiving in terms of subscriber fees, and what the basic ad market was. Even if we had wanted to do a lot of investment spending in research, there wasn't very much data to be had. Pay television, cable and satellite television, was quite rudimentary in most markets around the world. So our sample base would have been extremely small. So again, much the way the internet right now is sort of betting on a potential marketplace, 10 years ago for international television as an American-based company was all about a bet. First time that we left the United States was to go down into South America, and so South America remains about 40% of our total business. The market down there, as is true not only for television but for most products and services, is really dominated by 3 countries, and that would be Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico. Those are by far the 3 most important markets for us in television, and as I say, that would be true if we were selling soap or cars or whatever. We are in Europe, but in Europe we're in a partnership, so we do not have a brand presence in Europe. It's actually built around Eurosport. It's an important market to us, but it's obviously a marketing challenge because it's a different brand. In Canada, again, it's in partnership. We do not have ESPN branding there. Very attractive market for us. It's a market we would like to explore further. Then Asia, we have, truly massive operation there. We're in 25 countries spanning all of Asia. And then on our own, we operate within Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. We also have a small operation in Antarctica, as well as operations in the Middle East and in Africa. Grand total is 150 to 160 million households. So it's a large operation. The initial thought was really to bring the product that we had here, news, information, and American sports, to a global audience. As the years have progressed, we have invested far more in the localization of sports. Different, frankly, than the way CNN expanded, where it really was trying to bring an American news service around the globe, targeted largely to expatriates and to people traveling. What we'd like to do is have a unified expectation of quality and journalistic integrity, but the actual programming and approach will hopefully be very local. This is one of our greatest challenges that we have from an operational and marketing point of view. Is a decision was taken largely for economics and also just lack of understanding of the international marketplace to be pan-regional, so to have a similar signal for an entire continent or even a collection of continents. That is proving to be a huge challenge for us because of local tastes and interests around the region. The difference between Mexican Spanish and the Spanish that's spoken in the Southern Cone, say down in Argentina, is quite significant, and anybody who's native from those 2 parts of the world would notice a difference and would find it, if not insulting, at least, gee, I wish that the announcer could be speaking more in a pronunciation and an accent that was more like me. So what we've done is, much like you do in the United States, you find anchors that have very flat accents, trying to be as non-confrontational and hopefully not stepping on any particular cultural toes as we go through. It's all just about trying to deliver sports news and information in a high-quality fashion. What we're now doing is trying to break away from pan-regional and become much more localized in our feeds, and as a result we can deliver a different set of announcing teams to Argentina, say, as we do to Mexico. And so markets that are becoming big enough to support their own ESPN, if you will, we are putting offices in there. So we have an office in India. We have an office in Argentina, we have an office in Brazil, we have an office in Mexico, we have an office in Miami, which also then services the rest of greater Latin America. So as these markets develop, we put offices where they can be supported. There are some very specific sports tastes within Argentina that revolve around rugby and polo in particular. And so what you'll find in prime time during the seasons of both polo and rugby are Argentine events that are being played and are being watched with a great deal of interest by people within Argentina. And we, as a result, have acquired the rights locally to be able to air those sports. So we're tailoring what you see for all pan-regional, we're tailoring for the local, particularly Argentine audience. Let's change continents. To be able to capture the popularity of cricket, what you really need to do is you need to take the popularity of the United States of the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, and Major League Baseball, put them all together, and you might come close to the popularity and the passion that is expressed for cricket in India. It is the most dominant pastime, and more than pastime, it is a religion. It's a total culture. Most of the matches that the Indian national team plays outside of India, we have on our air. So if you want to watch it live as opposed to read about it in the newspaper the next day, you need to be able to have access to ESPN. The sales pitch, the marketing pitch to a cable operator is all about giving that cable operator comfort that having sports, and specifically having ESPN, is two things. First of all, it's an enticement for a new consumer to in fact try cable and satellite television. So here, as part of our package, we have ESPN, we have sports, therefore that might be the one sort of final straw that gets somebody to say, yes, I'll buy it.
For a new century of sport, ESPN 2000 means unparalleled brand recognition, in-depth understanding of the local market, exclusive rights to the most desirable sporting events.
But even more importantly, once you have consumers using your services as a cable operator, it's retention. It's, all right, I don't want to stop being able to see what's on ESPN, therefore I'll continue to pay my monthly fee. So really for the cable operator, it's twofold. In the early days, it's about being able to go out and get new consumers, new viewers, new subscribers, and then over time it becomes retention. We get two revenue streams, both from the cable operators and from advertisers. We're offering value to the cable operator as a both retention and attraction vehicle, so therefore you get paid subscriber revenue on a monthly basis. It's the same thing that happens here in the United States. But from an advertising point of view, it really becomes, unlike here in the States, where it can become very numeric and quantitative. That kind of world doesn't exist in most markets around the world, so it's a little bit of the Wild West.
ESPN is the new century's one-stop location for international advertising. We can target your advertising or sponsorship message to any region for any sport in any form. Such as program entitlement. Sponsors can secure entitlement to certain shows or segments. Billboards. A 10-second sponsorship connecting your corporate logo to the event. Sponsored halftime reports will spotlight your logo within the event broadcast.
So even without the benefit of research, advertisers are willing to make a leap of faith that what trends they see here in the United States or in the United Kingdom or in France absolutely transfers down to Argentina and Brazil or India. And as a result, while the sort of complexity of data isn't there to make a truly fact-based buy from an advertising point of view, you can build around it, and with enough focus groups, which we do provide, you can get a sense of who's watching and when, and that's really our sales pitch to an advertiser. And you absolutely learn by doing. There have certainly been markets probably where we've taken more than our fair share because the advertisers weren't sophisticated enough, and I'm sure the tables have been turned the other way as well. It evolves over time. The majority of advertising we do, frankly, is on our own air. So it's promotion that we do existing off the channel. So in essence, we are marketing ourselves to our already consumers. What we're trying to do with that is get people to tune in to specific events and to hopefully encourage a longer time spent with ESPN. Don't hit the clicker, don't change the channel, stay with us. We'll provide you decent entertainment. We don't obviously spend money on that, but in terms of if we were to put together a budget, that would be the majority of where our budget would be spent, is on our existing air. And on top of that, we do a fair amount of print advertising, largely magazines. The focus really is to to encourage tune-in for specific events. Most of our advertising is event-specific. Very little of it is image-oriented or just branding. That's starting to change. But for now, it's very much, we have such and such an event, Thursday at 8 o'clock, please tune in. We do a fair amount of what we call guerrilla marketing, which is just stunts, in essence, that will hopefully encourage people to be aware of ESPN. In that instance, it's not about a specific tune-in. It's just about, we are ESPN, we are sports, we are fun, but we're also credible, know who we are.
Hey, Mark.
You and I go back a long ways, right?
Yeah.
You're my best friend. Well, I have something for you. It's number 62.
No, I can't.
Please take this.
ESPN has really prided itself on its journalistic integrity and its commitment to providing sports news and information unlike anybody else.
In 3, 2, 1.
Oops.
More from the NBA and an NFL trade right after this.
We definitely have a few bugs to work out, but we'll be ready.
Follow me! Follow me to freedom!
For us internationally, converting what is very much an American approach with a fair amount of humor has been a challenge. And for the most part, sports news and information is an intensely local concept. People have passing interest in what's going on around the world. And even that interest only becomes truly interesting if somebody that you know, some person from your country, is involved. So you need to make it localized. So for us, the only way it will be successful is to in fact be local.
Juegos Olímpicos. Los deportistas argentinos se preparan con todo para Sydney 2000. La gimnasta Melina Ciroli es una de ellos.
Para ver quién iba, tuvimos que hacer 3 selectivos.
Si hoy ganamos, creo que éramos serios candidatos para el título. Ahora tenemos que pelear con Boca, con San Lorenzo y Colón.
Very hard to retain sports rights for all the most popular sports in any country, and certainly in the United States. So the only way you can ensure having long-term access to sports is if you yourself control them and you yourself produce them, as opposed to being dependent upon another league or association. So the X Games are a production that's entirely in-house. They are a production we control, so we have the rights, if you will, to that television product, and we can provide that then all over the world. I think the X Games is one of the most exciting things that's going on in the sporting world at the moment. What is it? It's anything and everything. It's the evolution of sports. It's, anything from, skydiving off of a modified surfboard to, skateboarding off a ramp. We noticed that a lot of this activity was going on and it hadn't been housed in any one place. It seemed like a similar cultural and affinity group. Therefore, let's go, if we're going to be the worldwide leader in sports, those are the kinds of trends we need to identify. Let's enter into it and see what can become of it. We had an experiment in Thailand, which we learned a lot. It wasn't a particularly successful event, but we learned a lot, and then we returned to the same location in Thailand and had an incredibly successful event. The desire of the company is to have ESPN all over the world. So that is our brand. That's the brand we were trying to build. Over the next 10 years, I expect the brand name and the brand value of ESPN to be increased substantially internationally as we start to invest more and more behind the brand. Because in the past, it's really been about just obtaining distribution, and that's been our focus. It hasn't really been a marketing effort, as I said before, to build the brand. Now that we really are pretty close to fully distributed. Yes, we can do better, but pretty fully distributed. Now we have the opportunity to really invest behind the brand and make the brand mean something to a consumer, something that the consumer can feel, can touch, can experience, beyond just the television images. And that's where we are going over the course of the next 10 years.